I'd like to introduce, one at a time, we'll go through the rest of the members of the Leadership Committee of the Energy Task Force. I'd like to lay out a few basic ground rules. This meeting is intended to be a kickoff just for the people who have agreed to serve on the committee. We have a very wide variety of people. I think they cross all different sectors and opinions on the energy issues. And so because this meeting is specifically geared around getting them involved and getting them kicked off and assigned, I'm going to say that we don't want any public comment. If the public does have some questions that they would like to ask, they need to bring it to me, and I'll relay it to the rest of the leadership team, and we can go from there. So, okay. So I'll start off with Meg Kennedy, who's going to walk us through the first part of the program.
First, just before we go into the slides, I just want to let everybody know who everyone else is up here. We have Greg Mattice, and we'll be doing more introducing as we go along. City of Oneonta engineer, Representative Michelle Farwell from the Otsego County Board, also a member of the IGA committee, which we both are on, which was the incubator group for this larger ambitious project that we're doing tonight, and Leslie Orzetti, Director, OCCA. So that's who we are, and thank you all for coming out tonight. Thanks for agreeing to serve on this committee to do this very important work for the county and for the residents, for us, and for future generations. I feel like we're really at a turning point, and here's the kickoff tonight. So thank you for coming. And just to go into the slides a little bit, that's correct, right, in the agenda?
Have any task force members not received a copy of the tasks and goals?
I feel the only thing we should have done was had name tags, but that's hindsight.
There's another copy circulating. Okay, well, I'll get you one of those in a minute. Yep, I'll get you one of those in a minute.
And the reason there's two different copies of it is because certain people have agreed to serve on this committee, and we didn't want to share their public information publicly unless they agreed to it first, and at this time they have not done so. We have not asked them to, so we're not sharing that information. There's a lot of business people here who don't want their email addresses distributed.
So here we are, Otsego County Energy Task Force. This idea sort of originated in the IGA committee discussions that we've had. Representative Farwell was instrumental in getting county board approval to begin this process. So here we are. She and I are, as I said, both on the IGA committee. We chose from a wide group of people, 3 more, which we've introduced. Beginning in October, we would meet at the county boardroom and started putting together ideas. What did we want to do? What is a community energy plan? What does it involve? How do we get from point A to point B and going farther down the road? So we began in October. We've been meeting every month. We did not skip for weather or any other reason. So then we started reaching out for task force nominations December, January, crafting a mission statement, and identifying people to make that committee solid. Thank you again for responding. So here we are tonight with our mission established. This is what we hope to do. We want to address the needs of the community to become energy secure and resilient while taking into consideration long-term health of citizens, economic growth, and environmental sustainability of Otsego County. And then we've identified our 4 major goals, which will line up with our 4 big work groups that we've identified. We want to identify and measure current and future energy supply and quantity, identify methods to improve energy efficiency in existing structures and new construction, identify current energy needs of business community, future economic development. We want to identify and assess current and future environmental impacts relating to energy usage and development. So it's an ambitious group of goals, and we're ready to look at the next one, our plan. And we will be building out on many of these topics as we go through the evening tonight. So a lot of the plan development, Danny Lappin, another county representative with a planning background, will be building out that piece of it, but you just can wait for that and we'll get there. We have an ambitious timeline to complete our draft, but with June of next year, provide public comment, as with any major planning project, go through seeker, and then, of course, all of our work is going to provide a plan that would need to be adopted by the county board. So we're working toward with that as our ending point in October of 2020. So we have our work cut out for us. So commitment, thank you again for committing. We'll meet every month as a full task force. The working groups will meet once per month. And again, here are just a few of our guiding principles that we put on this slide. We'd like to remain open-minded to, respectful of, conventional and innovative thinking. Open communication with, in, and between the committees and the full task force. Written monthly reporting to the leadership committee, and positive and respectful attitude toward all task force members. I don't know how many of you know, I have a very big family, and this looks like rules for living within a big family, so I know I can do this. And go ahead, thank you, Leslie. Yep. Sponsored. So we are, as I've said, an ad hoc committee for intergovernmental affairs. Representative Farwell has been on intergovernmental affairs committee. This is her second year. I've been on the Intergovernmental Affairs Committee for my years on the county board beginning in 2016, and I have been chair for, this is my third year, so lots of intergovernmental affairs experience there. We will be following open meeting laws for the full board meetings because Representative Farwell, myself, and Representative Lappin also constitute a quorum of the Solid Waste and Environmental Concerns Committee for the county. So we're following open meeting law with regard to county board meetings. Our working groups, and of course, again, the public is participating, but as we've mentioned before about commenting, that will go forward on a, I guess we'll just have to see how it goes basis. But tonight really is a working meeting. We're going to gather information, research topics, solicit technical information, make recommendations to the full task force. Each group will elect a chairperson. Each group will set their own meeting schedule, and each group will invite technical advisors as needed. And did I?
That's okay.
We need to introduce. I'm sorry, the slide went out because we're going to do each group.
Yeah, that's okay.
So then we're going to go Danny, then we're going to go Michelle. Or did I?
Sounds good. Let me just.
You covered the thing I was going to cover just as well as I was going to cover.
I thought you were going to go. I thought all the names with the people were going to come up when it was your turn. Sorry.
You're a good presenter anyway.
We obviously didn't plan or practice.
All right, so good evening, everybody. Let me just say how happy I am to see so many engaged people here. We are particularly excited to see so many wonderful members of the public attending this meeting. This is a very crucial issue, and so we are very grateful for your attendance and continued engagement. To introduce myself, I'm Danny Lappin. I am the environmental planner with the Otsego County Conservation Association, and I am also the county representative serving the 13th district, which covers Oneonta wards 5 and 6. So I wanted to talk to you today very briefly about the planning process related to crafting an energy plan. But to preface that, I want to stress the importance of, public engagement throughout the entire planning process. Sometimes people will ask, how can they help? The best way to help us is to be engaged, to ask questions, to comment regularly and constructively throughout the process. So we hope that you'll be able to meet us halfway in that regard. So we're going to follow a traditional 5-step planning process as this committee and task force crafts the energy plan. The first and most crucial step is to identify the stakeholders. That is already done for the most part, though my understanding is that the task force would welcome any additional recommendations that they feel would be particularly relevant as the plan is being created. Identifying stakeholders also encompasses public champions, members of the public who can communicate planning progress to the community, to keep them engaged, to help them understand the complex topics that this plan will cover, and to make sure that technical information is delivered in an accessible, transparent, and open manner. The next kind of step that we would take is to develop a public outreach strategy. This means figuring out what is the best way to access a good cross-section of the public. How do we access people who may not have regular internet access? How do we reach people who are elderly or may not speak English as their first language? Making sure that the information is provided in a very open and clear way will help spur the project along. It will help condense timelines and will ultimately save costs. So the next kind of step that we would do is we would gather kind of consensus among the task force and develop the goals that we would like to achieve for this kind of energy plan. We want to develop a vision that kind of says where we want to be. We want to develop goals that we feel that if we achieve, we'll identify a path for how we get to our vision. And these kind of components should be identified from the bottom up. So basically, the public will feed information to the task force will digest it, and will spit out goals that will ideally be, I guess, a marrying of the two kind of perspectives. The next step is to gather information and conduct analysis. This will be the charge of the working group. They will be analyzing an immense amount of technical information, some of it coming from utilities, some of it coming from public facilities. Irrespective, it will be a difficult task, and hence why we have so many incredibly qualified members serving on the task force. Once the analysis is completed, there will be a series of alternatives that will be presented. Energy plans are inherently nebulous because the field is so broad. There's different kind of scenarios that public officials would like to have to consider depending on financial constraints, environmental constraints, infrastructure constraints, and the level of public engagement in different parts of the county. Since this is a countywide plan, a scenario-based analysis will provide an effective kind of realm for future public discussions related to energy moving forward. Once these scenarios are presented, then a preferred alternative will be selected. This will, again, be a kind of a bottom-up approach. The public will feed information to the task force. The task force will kind of take the public input into consideration and establish a consensus path forward onto what the preferred alternative will be. And as I've said before, public engagement will be solicited, requested, and welcomed at all stages. And then once that starts, we'll have to do a formal plan adoption process. That means subjecting the plan to seeker. This is an automatic type 1 action. It will affect development projects moving forward. So it's critical that the environmental review surrounding the adoption of this plan is thorough and complete. And then once the seeker review is done, the plan will go for a vote before the full county legislature, and it is my hope that it is adopted. So with that said, I'll pass it on to Michelle.
Okay. So we're about to start, for the task force, we divided it into smaller working groups with the hopes that you'll elect a chair within your group, meet on your own, and start at working on the tasks that we've outlined, and then come up with tasks and goals of your own. So for our first group is the Buildings and Efficiency Group, and we're asking that this group evaluate the status of building stock by town, identify regulatory frameworks in place for state, county, and localities, evaluate the status of capital improvement, and I know you all can read, so I'm not going to read them all, and you have it all in front of you. But to get to the next slide is where we have all the members that were have thought would make a good fit with buildings and efficiency. And this is your turn, if you're here, to introduce yourself and tell the large group a little bit about your background or why you're here. So we'll start with Ashley am I saying that? Wissy.
Hi, I'm Ashley. I work for a company called New Ecology. They are based in Boston, but I work remotely. I'm originally from here. Moved out to Boston for 8 years and then decided to come back. We primarily do energy efficiency from the start of new construction through operations and maintenance and upgrades of existing buildings as well.
And then next we have Bennett Sandler.
Hi, I'm standing up. I'm Bennett. I think I know most of you in the room. I am the campaign director for Heat Smart Otsego, and I sort of funded Otsego County Conservation Association project that is promoting clean heating and cooling technologies, which include heat pumps, both ground and air source, and modern wood burning appliances, as well as heat pump hot water heaters and solar thermal. Prior to launching this campaign in June of last year, I worked for 9 years doing home energy audits and residential efficiency upgrades throughout Otsego and neighboring counties.
Thank you. And then next on our list is Joe Yellick. I don't think he's here. Joe? Haven't met him before. But he's from the Oneonta City School District.
He's the superintendent.
Superintendent of Oneonta City School District.
Jonathan, I don't think Jonathan made it.
Jonathan White from Bassett Healthcare Network.
He's the facility, I'm trying to remember his title, facilities director for the whole network.
So we're trying to get some commercial building expertise and also large project management expertise. And then we have Pat Ryan from SUNY Oneonta, who I also don't think is here.
He is the energy manager of the campus.
Okay, energy manager of the campus. And Steve Yurley, codes officer.
I'm the code officer for the city of Oneonta. I also do zoning planning.
I'm sorry.
Steve Yurley.
Yes.
What was the last part? Code officer and?
I do the zoning planning for the city of Oneonta as well as building code.
Good.
Okay, sure. So that's our first group. And there are some technical advisors that also have expertise in buildings, but we're going to get to them last, I believe. So our next group is energy supply and distribution. This is a huge undertaking. We're talking about, all forms of energy, the supply and distribution within the county. And that would include, electricity, natural gas, and alternative energy. So there's an overview of the tasks for this group.
Go.
And then we'll have members of this group introduce themselves. So our first person is Amy Wyatt. She was trying to make it here in time.
She's on the horn.
From Syracuse.
But I don't know if this will work.
We have a few people video conferencing.
Oh, wait, she's here, hang on. Wait, function. Okay, try again, Amy. Amy?
Hi everyone, Amy Wyatt here from, yes, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Nope.
Okay. Amy Wyatt from the community coordinator in the Old Valley, and it's quite hard to hear you, but we're trying to pick up whatever we can from here, so I do apologize if you don't answer right away from the telephone, so sorry about that.
Okay, so that was Amy. Next is Karen Sullivan, our Otsego County planner.
Hi, I know most of you, and I work with Amy Wyatt. Our department is solid waste and planning, but we also do, we have worked to develop PACE financing for the county, as well as the working towards climate smart communities. I work with Meg in IGA. I work with Leslie with recycling and other options, Danny Lappin, Michelle Farwell. Our department answers to two parent committees, IGA and Solid Waste Environmental Concerns. So we have our hands in a lot of different pots in the county. So this is exciting. We're glad to see everyone here. As I was driving here from Cooperstown, I was afraid that it was canceled, but luckily you made it here safely. So thank you, all of you, for putting this together.
Okay, next we have Keith Shue, an engineer.
Yeah, I'm Keith Shue. I am an engineer. Electrical engineer, actually. I did hardware design and development in Virginia and then in Florida for several years. Then I actually kind of broke from that and got into environmental conservation. Worked with the Nature Conservancy for about 5 years. So I think I kind of have a little bit of understanding from kind of all sides of this complicated picture that we're talking about. Anyway, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Next on our list is Lou Allstott. He's not here. He will be joining the group in April. But he asked me to, asked him for a little introduction of himself, and he was kind enough to get me one. So he worked in all sectors of oil and gas industry, logistics, marketing, refining, exploration, and production. And his major responsibilities included marketing and refining, operations in Japan, exploration and production, U.S., Canada, Latin America, and economic development board experience in Singapore and in Japan. And he's also a trustee for the village.
Retiring trustee.
Retiring trustee. A lot of changes happening starting right now. But in terms of trustees and elected positions. And then we have Russ Southard who's here.
Yeah. Russ Southard, I'm the 6th Ward Councilman, City of Oneonta. For the last 18 years, I've worked for Marabido, working directly with commercial industrial customers, procuring natural gas and electricity for their facilities. I worked directly with the customers. Prior to that, 14 years at NYSEG, 5.5 doing home energy audits, 8.5 working with commercial industrial customers on efficiency and equipment, things they could do to save money and different things they could do to their facility to convert to natural gas, possibly. Or I was assigned accounts or territories, whatever. But that's kind of my background, so I have a good idea of infrastructure.
And like I said, we'll get to the advisors last.
Someone has something.
Oh, what? Question? It's finally not me with my kids.
And our third group is the economic development group. And I'll give you a chance to look at those up there, but they're all on your handout sheet, what the major tasks we've identified for this group is. And the next slide will be our Barbara Ann Hegan, who's here.
Hi everyone, I'm Barbara Ann Hegan with the Otsego County Chamber. I've been with the Chamber for about 7 years now. We just hosted an energy summit last January, which was well attended to best educate and inform our members and community members on all forms of energy. So we continue our work as an energy committee of the Chamber, and we're very excited to be working with this task force to assist the county. Thank you.
And next we have Jody Zakrowski. I'm learning it.
Jody is fine. My name is Jody. I'm the Chief Executive Officer of Otsego now, which is the County of Otsego Industrial Development Agency, the County of Otsego Capital Resource Corporation, and the Oneonta Rail Yards Local Development Corporation. And I'm one of the reasons everybody is here today.
I'm sorry. Next we have Casey Masro. who's not able to come tonight, but
I think he's on the horn.
Oh, Casey. Do you have anything you want to tell the group about yourself?
Yes, first I want to say I'm sorry I can't be there in person, but for the birth of my son on Monday, it's keeping me from traveling this week. So that's great news.
Congratulations.
I've been working very closely with a number of Otsego County entities, first of which was the city of Oneonta. Greg was kind enough to ask me to join the Economic Development Group. The Power Authority, I work for the Business Development Group for energy efficiency and renewable energy, and we develop all manner of energy efficiency and renewable energy projects for public entities in New York State, from electricity, natural gas, renewables, water. We work on a number of big water treatment facilities. So essentially anything that reduces load or generates renewable source, we will help provide turnkey solution support. And I'm happy to be here to discuss how our efforts can assist in Otsego County generating and implementing measures for energy plan.
Great, thank you. And we have Dan Sullivan is not
He's
here.
on the horn.
Oh, my
That's
goodness.
I'm here.
Hi, Dan.
Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Hi, everybody. I'm Dan Sullivan. I am the former clean energy communicator for the communities coordinator for the Mohawk Valley. I assist in continuing the work of the Clean Energy Communities Program. I'm also the chairman of the Comprehensive Plan Committee, which consists of the Office of Housing Skills. And I am a co-owner of the Richfield Springs Community Food Co-op with Amy. And just a generally interested citizen, happy to be with all of you. I'm in awe of your expertise, and I hope to be a useful part of the community.
Hey, thank you. Next we have Jacqueline Porter. She's here.
Hi everybody, I'm Jacqueline. I am one of 2 regional development analysts for Southern Tier 8. So specifically I cover Otsego County, Delaware, Schoharie, and Shenango. Some of you have probably heard of Southern Tier 8 recently. We released an RFP. We're doing an energy study of all 8 of our counties. So my experience, that's my reason for being on this task force.
So we're hoping to get a lot of, that we will be able to get some synergy going, and we don't duplicate our efforts, and Jacqueline's going to be our person that's going to help us with that. And then we have Phoebe Schreiner from CADE.
Hi everyone, Phoebe Schreiner, Executive Director of the Center for Agricultural Development and Entrepreneurship. We are a 26-year-old organization working to support successful farm enterprises across the Mohawk Valley and Southern Tier, and more broadly New York. We recently have embarked on a really exciting research project that would have us look at the pathway for New York State to become the next major food shed to feed the larger Northeast region, the Northeast Seaboard. If we all look at the climate change realities that exist on the West Coast and in the Midwest that represent our current food sheds, they are in crisis. They cannot sustain agricultural production as we know it today. We need to be thinking about the long term and the future. New York State is water secure and on the doorstep of all of the major population centers in the United States. So we're really excited to undertake research in partnership with Cornell University and SUNY Cobleskill to begin to look at what that would look like. So what basically that means in everyday speak, if you will, is that we need to dramatically scale up agricultural production in New York State. We know that agriculture is a critical part of our current economy, and we want to see that even stronger and grow. So I'm really excited to be on the Economic Development Committee, to be thinking about what our energy needs as we scale up in hopes that that vision will come to be. Once we get our research findings, we'll be using that information to be doing some strategic planning, both with public stakeholders and private stakeholders, again, to bring it into being. So thanks, look forward to working with all of you.
Yep, so that's everyone on the economic development group. And then our last group is the environment group. And we can just head on over to the list of people. So first we have Danny, who we heard from earlier.
Isn't Danny on economic development too?
Yeah. At some point he was,
I
but not
did
on that slide, no.
Oh, he's not? He originally was on environment, then we moved him to economic development, and I don't know if we.
I think on the handout, he's on, is he?
He's on both.
He's on
He's
both
on
in your
both.
handout? I just like to give Danny a lot of work. So Danny's gonna do dual purpose on both committees. So go ahead, Danny.
Sure. So should I? All right. You guys already know who I am. I'm Danny Lappin. I've been the environmental planner with OCCA for almost 5 years. I was hired initially to actually help lead an environmental review of a major transmission line. But I've worked with communities on everything ranging from comprehensive plans to zoning to the review of large development projects. I was the lead planner on the Otsego County Ag and Farmland Protection Plan update. And I'm just really happy to have the opportunity to work with you all and just excited to be here.
And next up we have Dave Rowley, who wasn't able to come tonight. He was principal superintendent of Edmiston School, and he's actually, I believe, the newest appointed member of the Otsego Now board as of last month. So beyond that, we have Gina Keel. Hello. He's right back here.
Gina Giel, I'm associate professor at SUNY Oneonta. Been here 14 years. I'm a Californian originally. My background is in political economy and public policy training. I teach environmental politics and policy, energy science and policy, introduce students to cost-benefit analysis, risk assessment, impact analysis, these sorts of things. And also city-level energy decision-making and implementation. So very happy to be asked to be part of this.
Hi everyone, Mark Davies, Hartwood College, as well as I'm the chair of the City of Oneonta Environmental Board. Real interested in this, been involved in a lot of projects around the city and the county in terms of composting and climate smart communities and clean energy communities, so I'm certainly interested in getting involved in this larger vision of the county. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Trish Riddell-Kent. I'm in my 6th year on the Oneonta Town Board, and I also serve on the Board of Directors for Otsego County Conservation Association. And Danny, I always think you should be cloned, so you should be on multiple committees. So you do a great job. Thank you. Thanks for coming out to Oneonta, to the town.
Okay, that's our group. We'll get to our last group. By now you've figured out there are a lot of us. We started with the idea that this group would be 12 to 15 members, and we just kept having great ideas who might help with this. And we also identified that there could be a role for technical advisors or advisors that aren't necessarily on the committee, but have some expertise that we could tap into that could help us in our planning. So our technical advisor groups, Doug Zamilis, he's not here.
He's an environmental attorney.
Carol Kelly.
She's with Corning, and we thought she would be a good person to have on board in terms of economic development, since Corning is a fairly large entity in the county, and well, across, I guess, not the world. Is Corning everywhere? Oh, I feel like they are. Okay.
And then Jim Barber, who I believe is here.
All right, yeah, Jim Barber. I was recently hired as the Ag Implementation Specialist for Cornell Crop Extension of Otsego County. I work on Ag Economic Development and Ag Farmland Planning. I'm a farmer, so I bring a lot of practical experience to this area, and farming, of course, there's a lot of potential for agriculture or for energy production, both on farms and siting energy, windmills or solar arrays or whatever on rural land. So we got to be careful of the impact that has on agriculture. So a lot of things we can contribute here: composting, digestion. So a lot of possibilities. Hopefully, I can help.
And then we have Irene Weiser. Is she here?
I think she's on.
Irene, are you here? Mute them?
I don't think you muted him. Somebody say something from the computer. Okay.
Irene? Hi. Irene? Are you there, Irene?
She's the one that wanted me to Zoom, too.
Yeah. Well, we maybe had Irene at some point. She's a town board member from the town of Carolyn and out in Ithaca, and she was really a big part of the impetus for getting this plant started. She came to our IGA meeting in October and explained a similar process in Tompkins County that we thought we could model ourselves after to some extent. And Carolyn Lewis.
She's not here. She's with Mohawk Valley Regional Economic Development Council as well as Bassett Healthcare, and she has economic development experience in the county.
And then Pat Zarpa.
Pat Zarpa's the executive director for the Otsego Land Trust. One of the, we call them the big three. OCCA, the Land Trust, and Otsego 2000. So it's, we have two. Anyway.
Lee Backus.
Lee Backus is an engineer, engineering manager at NICEAG for the gas distribution side. Yeah, your time.
We have Carl Seeley.
I teach economics at Harvard College. I specialize in macroeconomics and energy economics and environmental and development.
I'm William Malor. I'm a business development consultant, and the bulk of my work has been in food processing, distribution, and logistics over the last 20 years. And my wife kind of pushed me to add up the number of businesses between here and Tompkins County that I've worked with over the last 25 years, and it's 60. Wow. So I have quite a bit of experience with smaller businesses in this area and developing those businesses and products and things like that. And I also did quite a bit of work about 15 years ago with NYSERDA and doing NYSERDA research projects, particularly in energy efficiency and agriculture. So I bring a couple of different skill sets to the group.
Okay, and then Tim Johnson is not here, but Jim Foote from Otsego Electric Co-op is here.
Okay. Yeah, I'm Jim Foote. I'm Director of Technology and Member Solutions at Otsego Electric Cooperative. My background's in smart metering and AMI. And we have about 4,600 electric members. And we're building a fiber optic network as well.
Amy, we've already heard from. Tony Gentile from Codes.
Hi, Tony Gentile, the Otsego County Code Enforcement Official.
Josh Evans.
Josh Evans, I run Simple Integrity, which is a construction company based in Cooperstown. We specialize in high-performance houses, certified passive houses, things like that. I'm a certified passive house consultant, which is just another way of saying that my background is in building science, which is making buildings efficient, understanding resilience and durability, and a lot of aspects like that. We have 2 certified passive houses under construction over near Cooperstown. which are just phenomenal ways to build a house. They use maybe 10% of the energy of a traditional home, so they use less energy. That's kind of what we're trying to do.
And then last on our list, although Bob is telling me there's a couple more, is Laughlin Square.
I'm Laughlin Square, the Chief Facilities Officer at SUNY Oneonta. We're a major entity in the area as well as a major energy user. I'm in charge of all the campus's maintenance operations, energy management, capital program, etc. We have a lot of interesting projects coming along, so we're learning fast. And my background is primarily in campus operations as well as capital planning. I came here from State University Construction Fund.
And then Mark, with you.
Mark?
Oh.
That
was off the hook.
It's my fault.
Yeah, exactly. Symbolic, because I'm actually out of town more often than I'm in town. I'm Mark McHugh. I'm the president of IOXIS, which is an energy components company down the way here. We actually have 2 facilities in Oneonta. I've been on the boards at both Hartwick and at SUNY. Couple engineering degrees, and have spent about 7 years in senior executive positions at utilities down in New Jersey, Public Service, Electric and Gas, and GPU, now known as First Energy. So I have a fairly good familiarity with the infrastructure kind of issues, and happy to help out any way I can.
Ellen. Oh, Ellen Pope wasn't able to be here, so Nicole Dillingham is here.
Hello, everyone. I'm happy to represent Ellen Pope, our Executive Director. I'm Board President of Otsego 2000. Many of you have worked with me and with Otsego 2000 over the years on several environmental issues. I happen to be an attorney, so I'm occasionally called upon to draft comments on various environmental proposals or SEQR reviews. And we're delighted to be here at the start of this impressive program. So thank you for including us.
I hope everybody realizes that we have a really diverse group of people here with a lot of really good knowledge and come at this issue from a lot of different directions. And I think this is what we really hope to see develop into a really comprehensive plan that will be able to address some of the concerns that we've all had about both economic development with and or without a limited energy supply, and ways that we can encourage conservation as a method to allow for increased development and the whole package. I think the group we have in this room can certainly do that, so certainly the talent here for it.
If anybody knows of any other advisors, as you start meeting with your groups, if you have people you think would be valuable advisors to your group or any other group, you can let any one of the 5 of us know, and then when we meet together, we can discuss adding them in and everything like that.
Yeah, and we're calling ourselves, for lack of a better word, the leadership group. And
I guess you didn't see us on any committees. You're probably wondering, well, what the heck are they going to do? So I guess if you need or want us to be at any of the committee meetings,
keep us notified, and
Yeah.
we would attend as is possible. We have other town meetings and things, Michelle and I, that we have to attend. Well, we choose to attend to stay connected with our towns. But whenever the opportunity exists, I know that, speaking for myself, I would like to go out and participate in the groups. We just have to watch the quorum thing. That's the idea, show.
And I'd like to say too that we've done a lot of research already. Greg pulled up a lot of information. A lot of what the information I think we're looking for is out there already. So Greg gave us sheets that showed that the state had done greenhouse gas emissions plan, an analysis of what it is for each county already, so we had that on hand. And the Chambers Energy Summit that they had certainly gave us a lot of good contacts with NYSEG and stuff. I was able to speak to a lot of people there. I know we have a conference coming up with a gentleman down in Florida who does geothermal work, and so we'll be looking at a lot of different options. But there's a lot of information out there already, and I think these people know how to find it, and we're glad to get help too.
So are we ready to, next step is to meet with the other members of your group who are present this evening and set up a date to meet together as a group and then go from there. So I would suggest that the 4 groups get together and then the technical advisors sort of attach yourself to whichever group you would like to get in with first.
Oh, question.
Oh, okay, sure, yes. Oh, sorry, yeah. Okay, these are our emails for the leadership group. We're making them public right off the bat. This is an opportunity to have a contact directly with any questions and comments, which, as has said multiple times this evening, they're welcomed, they're encouraged, and we look forward to hearing via email. You can also find Michelle and Danny and I on the county website by phone.
When I spoke, I'm actually a volunteer with Otsego 2000 as well. I didn't say that, but I guess a lot of people talked about where they came from and what they're doing today, what they've done in the past. I think I'm correct in saying this, that regardless of that, we're acting on behalf of ourselves as individuals. Is that correct? We're not speaking on behalf of any particular organizations. Each one of us are individual participants in this. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
I just wanted to make sure.
That is correct.
I guess unless your business has given you the go-ahead to represent them.
Yeah.
But I feel that it's individuals' expertise that I think has been stressed as we've gone through the introductions. It's what you have as a person, that your personal background and education and life experience has brought you to this point. I know we did not sit at the leadership group and say, who can we get from X group or Y group? It was done on a personality-driven basis.
Thanks, that helps. I guess I just want to understand a little bit about the process that's going to unfold in the months that follow here. I understand there's going to be a plan developed. I sat on a planning board in Florida for like 6 years, an advisory board that came up with a comprehensive plan that was like 1,000 pages long. So I have some familiarity with some of this, but I guess as I understand it, we will be working together and coming up with concepts that will gravitate into a plan or elements of a plan, and then we will piece together text that would be part of this plan. And then at some point, I guess next year, when all that's happened and we've gone through different iterations of what that language might be, we get to the point where there comes a day where we think we're done with the document, right? And then I guess we all take a vote to see if there's support for that document, and then we pass it on to the county.
To the public first.
To-
You have to have
okay.
at least a 30-day public comment period.
Preferably more.
Preferably more. Well, here's your planner.
So you would want, to answer your question, public input would be, public outreach strategy would be agreed upon by consensus in the very beginning. And so we would determine a way to, solicit and utilize sustained public engagement at every stage in the process. Once the draft plan is completed, there will be a public comment period. Again, ideally, we would like to achieve consensus on how long that should be and how the public outreach process should be conducted to ensure maximum engagement. And then, once the plan goes through the secret process, there will be public comment on that analysis as well. And then again, when the plan is adopted.
Okay, so there's going to be a public input phase and comment phase while it's still in the hands of the task force, is that right?
Yeah, correct.
And then it goes to the county, and then it goes for adoption and seekers involved with that, right?
Correct.
So, and then there's a public comment phase in that.
Correct, yeah. I mean, in the planning process, public engagement is one of the most critical components because you want it to be representative of our 64,000 residents.
Okay. One last question. It has to do with open meeting law. I understood what was said about the leadership participation in open meeting rules. How does it relate to the individual subcommittees?
Since the subcommittees are not, you won't have the quorum with Danny, Michelle, and Meg.
So open meetings law applies to bodies that have the power to legislate in some way or another. And this is an ad hoc committee created by a committee, a standing committee of Otsego County. So as such, there's no open meeting law requirement. The fact that Danny, Meg, and I are all in the room does make an open meetings law requirement. So anytime the big group gets together, we're required to be in open meeting. And so that's what the law says. We also want to be in open meeting. So there's no problem there. I think with the smaller groups, since there's no requirement, it's you're kind of on your own as to how you want to hold your meetings. We try to have a certain amount of guidance, but also enough leeway so that each of the smaller groups can have a little bit of flexibility in your group.
Keeping in mind that you do need to get work done within your working group meetings. And, and feel free to have open, frank discussion, and, without judgment or anything like that.
Oh yeah, I think that's important. And then another important component that that we should let you know about, but we don't have a lot of information as of yet. But as of the last county board meeting, we were able to set aside funds to put out an RFP for a planner who will help us, or a facilitator who helped us plan, guide the planning process along the planning process that Danny has given us an overview of, and also help with the assessment. So we're in the beginning stages of that process, and we'll let you know as things go along. But that, just, for example, trying to get an email out to 38 people, and then you all have different responses and different needs. It's not necessarily something this group is going to be able to manage with everything else that we're doing.
So could I ask just a couple of foundational questions, like who will vote on the final plan before it goes through the CEQA process? Is it the leadership group, or is it all of the committees, or how will final adoption within your committee occur?
We will be guided by what previous communities have done when they put together community energy plans. So we may have to research that question, but my initial response would be that the task force members who have put in the work to do the plan would vote on it. And I just, that I'm going to say I'm not 100% clear on that, but there are other communities have put together community energy plans. That's the end process of what I think we would call what we're going to be doing. And we'll be guided by those communities' experience.
And then will minutes be kept of meetings? I know we have a record of today's meeting, but will there be minutes kept of the subcommittee's work or not?
Well, I would just say that part of the member commitment was that there was going to be monthly reporting to the leadership group, written reporting, so that would count.
So within each of your groups, you'll elect a chairperson, and then that chairperson will be responsible for working with the group to schedule your meetings, letting us know when your meetings are, if you would like us to attend, and also making sure that there are minutes recorded for your meetings. One of the big things when we have the large task force, everybody together, is that each of the committees will have to report back as to what they're doing, what they found, so that everybody within the group knows, because someone may have questions or that may spur other ideas, or someone for the group economic development group may have come up with a question that maybe the environment group needs to help with. So that's the reason for bringing the full task force back together, and so that we can all share and learn from each other and figure out, if there's other questions that we didn't think of that need to be asked, or that the consultant that the county hires has different questions to lay out for everybody as well.
May I ask one more question?
Go ahead.
It will be my last, but first of all, I think it's very impressive what you have put together. I really commend you. I love the breadth of the committees and the membership of those committees, and bringing so many people together is really an achievement, so thank you for doing that. But one concern that I have is, as you know, this community right now is facing a major infrastructure development project that affects the town of Oneonta and the city of Oneonta, the rail yards development and the attempt to bring in the decompressor station for compressed natural gas in the town. So my question is, have you considered asking the county to adopt a moratorium while you do your work? Because your work may be wonderful and broad and creative, but it could be undone by something else that's going on right at the same time. And the county really could impose a moratorium. I know that's happened other times when energy committees have been formed.
I would just say that's the first time I'm hearing that. We'll take it into consideration.
Well, I'd be happy to come to your next county legislative board meeting to address that, but I really think I think your work is going to, if it's going to be put to any use, it should be put to use with respect to the various projects now under consideration in this community.
And if I could add to that, I think we all learned at the summit that we were told that there's consideration of expanding the Droiter pipeline from 8 inches to 12 inches, not just 10. And so that too is part and parcel of what we're talking about here. So when we're talking about moratoriums and putting a hold on things as we collectively decide what makes sense and what doesn't make sense, I think that's a piece of it as well.
I think that would fall under the energy supply and distribution group to probably try to talk to NICEAG and get that information from Mike Rizzo, Barbara, is that, who was at this? Joe Rizzo. Joe Rizzo, and I think Bob, you've talked to him already, so, I think it falls under the energy supply and distribution group to get a hold of NICEAG and talk to them about the plans and what's moving forward, but also keeping in mind that the groups need to run everything through the county. The subgroups can't make any decisions without first talking to the legislators who have put the group together.
Did you have something to say?
Yeah, I mean, as far as any sort of local action goes, I feel like the appropriate forum is to have discussions is with the local elected officials themselves. This planning process is kind of more macro, broader level. And so if we're going to be discussing any specific projects, there's other forums that I feel would be more conducive to discuss this.
It is, after all, a home rule state.
Any other questions?
Well, in terms of the moratorium, though, the county could ask for a moratorium while their energy committee does its work. That's what we're talking about, just a moratorium while you do your work, while you develop what our needs are, what alternatives there are, what impacts there might be. We can't go ahead with something like the DeRuyter expansion while you're doing your work, or like you can just be disbanded.
The purpose of this meeting was to get these groups together and discuss the moratorium.
Yeah, I would definitely suggest going to the next county board meeting or talking to the board members offline.
I will, but since we have quorum here, I just thought I'd raise it with you, get you thinking about it.
Okay, thanks.
I guess I have a question that's not related
outside
to
the scope of this meeting.
Somebody mentioned home rule, and that sparked a question in my mind. The efforts that are going forward here and the secret process, which results in the adoption of a plan, how does that relate to the future consideration of other projects that they have to have their own seeker? I guess, I hope, I assume.
Yes.
Not a question for this group.
Well, the seeker.
Well, I think it is a question.
I can answer it.
Danny,
So there is a question on the full environmental assessment form, which asks the applicant or the person filling out the form to identify any officially adopted land use or municipal plan or otherwise that could affect the project at hand. So that would be considered as part of the individual secret reviews for other energy projects. So typically, one of the considerations when you evaluate whether or not a project has a positive environmental impact is a material conflict with an adopted plan. So if the county were to adopt an energy plan, and someone were to propose like a wind turbine, a facility that's like under 25 megawatts, they would do the secret review process. They would notice that the county has an adopted energy plan in theory, and they would evaluate the recommendation to determine consistency therein, and that would be put into the official record, and it would be up to the planning board in which the project is proposed to see the merits and consistency and evaluate that project.
Okay, now how does that relate to the home rule aspect of it? Like if it's in a town where that turbine or whatever it is being considered, you have this county energy plan that exists. What obligations are there for the town to be consistent with the county? This is the home rule question.
So unless the municipality in question officially adopts the county's energy plan by resolution, they can consider it during the secret review process, but they are not bound by its recommendations.
Okay.
And I think an important thing to remember about a plan is that a plan is a document that lays out recommendations. It doesn't create policy. One of the recommendations can be to create policies, but the plan in and of itself is a guidance document and gives a series of recommendations on what the group feels is the best way to move forward within the county. So while you do have to consider plans when you're doing seeker, I think it's important to remember that the plan in and of itself is not a policy, but can recommend policies if that's what the full task force feels is a recommendation that should go in the plan.
Okay, so barring any other questions, I'd like to have the groups break out into the 4 groups. If you want to come forward and consult with this group here, you could ask us questions, but I really want the work groups to start working, so. You come on up with that.
She's gonna throw us away. There's only 3 of us.
Yeah, well, Amy's on the, I don't know if Amy's still on the thing,
I'm not really an angry person. Thank you for all you do for the fiber optic network. We're really, really excited about it. Oh, that's amazing. That's incredible. The rates and character are just wonderful. I couldn't be happier. That's exciting.
Hi. I hadn't heard back from her. Good. So as far as this, I think we're kind of have like a foot in both the economic development and the environmental one. Not exactly how that plays out. So I don't know what the formal process is saying that we're available to vote. Like, I'm only part-time, so I'm not really sure how this all plays out, but okay. All right.
Let me know, keep you posted on this. I'll try again and send a reminder email, but you did get that email today.
I got your email.
Good.
And I sent out my dates, forwarded on to her, have heard from her, so, yeah, I'll give her a call.
Sounds good. Good.
Monday. Back to Monday. All right.
You got it.
How you doing, Barbara?